relations several times, as well as the Parks Commission. And after several of those discussions, we've arrived at this place where the, and again, members, please interrupt if I'm speaking, but we've arrived at this place where the discussion is evolved into a rule, and that the rule would be primarily for smoke-free Atwater Beach with a designated area. And that's what's before you here tonight to discuss in terms of moving it forward for the full board.
And can I just hear, thank you so much. I forgot to ask the committee chair, Trustee McKay, just synopsis and then the vote in the committee.
So that was the synopsis.
Okay, thank you.
She brought it forward as an ordinance change. We discussed that and felt we were not in agreement about making an ordinance change. We talked about making a rule change, and the concerns around making an ordinance change were around adversely impacting or creating a disparity of who is negatively impacted on by this ordinance change, and then also creating kind of an enforcement bind in that it gives people, you know, sort of a reason to call the police over to the beach. And in my experience, that has been an issue around basically that our community has a very high level of expectation around enforcement if we do put something on the books. And being as this could be, you know, it doesn't happen that often, and we didn't want it to rise to the level of A, someone receiving a $100 or $200 ticket for this, and B, that, you know, police would be called away from other duties to ask someone to stop smoking. That seemed unreasonable. That really we would make it a park rule, and that would address the nuisance aspect of it, and then putting a receptacle there, which was what the surf rider requested, takes care of the environmental impact. And we just decided that that was a better way to go at this time, and then we would, along with the education and the rollout of that, and then we could come back and look at either whether it needs to be expanded to other park areas or not, or whether we want to make it an ordinance change at that time. But that, and so that compromise was supported unanimously, I believe.
Trustee Carpenter, and then
I would just be interested to understand what does the North Shore Health Department feel? Because, you know, in a perfect world, what would you like to see happen? I know as a mom to two young, small children, knowing that there's a smoking area in a restaurant doesn't happen anymore, and I'm really thankful for that. And I feel, depending on which way the wind is shifting, you know, that smoking area is not going to stay contained in that one area. So bringing my kids to the beach, I have some real concerns about having a designated smoking area. So I want to know what you think is the help.
Yeah, from the health department perspective, our position is still that a smoke-free beach, completely smoke-free beach, is still a better direction to go in terms of messaging and marketing about a smoke-free beach versus a designated area. Then it, in some ways, becomes a smoking beach with a non-smoking area. In terms of the health impacts, you know, one of the things we're going for is lack of exposure to secondhand smoke, which, you know, could potentially be there with a designated area as well. Recognizing that that's a or a compromise position, you know, something starting in that direction would certainly be better than nothing, but in terms of our overall position, it'd be better to be fully smoke-free. I think that's, again, better for marketing as well in terms of the education campaign about that it's a smoke-free beach.
Thank you. I just think in 2020 to have a smoking area is something that everyone else in the world is moving away from. And I really think as a progressive community who really values our health and this jewel in our community, I can't support a smoking area. It needs to be completely beach.
Justin Norton?
And I completely hear what you're saying. It's my understanding currently the smoking beach, right? This is an incremental step in the right direction. And this would actually put us ahead of many other communities how many of the beaches around. As I understand it, most beaches are in fact.
Yeah, every beach in Wisconsin is fully smoked.
In Wisconsin.
Yeah, but not other states.
Yeah. Trustee Bachhorst, and then I'm gonna ask my question. Go ahead.
Yes, so that is one of the things, just as Trustee Warren discussed, that we wanted to make incremental steps. We wanted to avoid, for a variety of reasons, and it's part of the educational plan too. And not to say we
Talk
wanted
to
to
the whole
move.
board.
Well, I mean, is it that we're not gonna move in that direction eventually, or couldn't? But this is at least, you know, a step in the right direction. And I hear what you're saying. It would make a profound impact and a great public statement to say, you know, Shorewood is going not smoking. But then we also have the reality that there are people who do smoke. And that a lot of times it's a socioeconomically impacted kind of group. And we have all these different discussions in Shorewood right now. So we want to be cognizant of the fact that we don't want to create other situations, nor do we want to overburden the police. So we
So-
feel that a slower move,
Speak
a
to
slower
the
rollout of something like this might give us the opportunity to educate, might also give us the opportunity to think and to evaluate and assess. But,
So can I just clarify that what I'm asking, and then the reason is it's based on Robert's rules and so just try to speak to the board. It gets personal when you're talking one-on-one directly to another trustee, and Robert's rules asks us to address the whole board in our commenting. So I just wanted to stress that. But thank you so much for those comments.
you're welcome.
Do you have anything further?
I made my point.
Okay. Trustee Carpenter?
Would it be, since that was the purpose, was to implement a smoking area to make those steps forward to a non-smoking beach, could we include in the motion, a plan and a time frame to get to a smoke-free beach? So,
Was that discussed, or are you asking the committee?
yeah, I mean, what is that, I guess, what
And I
is
guess
that plan
Chair
to a smoke-free beach?
You can,
So was there like a plan to go from a smoking area to a
No.
non-smoking beach?
No, so one of the, so there were two, there were two considerations. One is, Milwaukee County, if they went, they have the largest, real estate park area. If they went smoke-free, then it would be consistent, and, that would be a really easy change to make. And to be honest, yeah, it is not, there aren't any parks and beaches that are smoke-free. And yes, we are very progressive environmentally, and, I can understand the reasons around it and the concerns. But, I will just state it very clearly. There was a memo that was provided that, it is more common for people of color in lower socioeconomic brackets to smoke than their white, more privileged counterparts. We as a community have struggled to be welcoming at Atwater Beach. There are residents that call the police to come and tell people of color to stop doing whatever they're doing. And I personally do not want to introduce another opportunity for residents who struggle with being welcoming to call the police on people that want to use the beach, when no one else in the state, no place else in the state would that be an issue. So I'll be very clear, that was the first reason why I opposed it. And that's why I'm going to I would support a rule. And it also is, we're in a time where there is a sort of over-reliance on policing. So it's like, if somebody's smoking and you're right next to them and you can't possibly move out of the way or anything, just talk to them. That it seems reasonable that in a welcoming community, in a close space, where we're sharing space, that we can talk to each other to get around these things, because it's not like smoking lasts for hours and hours and hours. It's not the same, and we don't even have a incident rate of how often this happens. It's our beach season is short.
So Thank you. Everybody's had time to talk. I need to ask my, you have spoken, the trustee mentioned, and
So I just wanted,
ask my
and I'm
questions.
not debating, I
No,
just
no, I
wanted
have
to
a
be
question
clear
just
about
for the
what the
health-
discussion was in committee.
Yeah, thank you so much for that synopsis.
I wasn't aware that we had police calls around the racially.
Well, that's a whole big conversation.
But I mean, if we have, I would like to have, I would like the chief to, I never heard that. And I've never heard the chief say that, and the chief has never said that at HRC, or Lieutenant Liebenthal has never presented that at HRC. So I'm not sure if it's an anecdotal or if that's really
I'd be
something.
happy to,
Yeah.
if we want to put
I
it
would
on the
like to
agenda.
hear from the,
Yeah.
I would like
You
to.
can always ask.
If I could have the floor, please. I would like, I have never heard that, and I think if that's actually something that's happening, then that should be something that we have some, factual evidence on as opposed to anecdotes. And
Sorry.
So, sure, we can.
I know, such a rude interruption. I'm having trouble collecting my thoughts, being treated the way certain trustees treat each other. So anyway, I do get that argument, but at the same time, our beach it's a small, it's not that large of a beach. I don't see, we're talking about putting lone vendors down there, so that's going to take up some part of the beach. The beach is getting smaller every year as the lake goes up. I have to agree with Trustee Carpenter on this one because I just feel like smoking's not healthy. That's part of the reason the health department is here advising us is because it's not a healthy practice, whoever you are. And I just don't think in such a small area to have a designated smoking area, that smoke is going to blow around and make it difficult. So I actually would be opposed to this rule, and I'm in favor of just going with no smoking or vaping on the beach. That's my position.
Thank you, and since everyone's had a turn to talk, I completely agree 100% with our health director, and I want to just state my reasons clearly because I am a big proponent of human respect and dignity and making sure that we're treating everyone equal. I personally feel it's the opposite. If you put a designated area for people that smoke, and the majority of people that smoke on that beach are African Americans, then we're designating an isolated area for the African Americans to sit. And I don't ever want that scene to happen at Atwater Beach. So that would be my concern, one of my concerns. I also think because it's unhealthy, I don't care who's smoking. I understand what it sets it up to look like, but an isolated area kind of sets it up to look the same. And so I'd like the beach to be very welcoming and very equal. And the way to do that is to have a law that says you don't smoke on the beach, and then everyone gets the same enforcement. It's not anyone that breaks the law gets the same enforcement. Hopefully, not necessarily true. We've seen that in statistics in places, but here in Shorewood, I feel pretty confident that can happen. I also don't understand like a rule, like a pool rule. I'm gonna ask the health director. It's not the law, but because if the pool says no diving, the lifeguards enforce?
Yeah, that actually would be a question more for the village attorney in terms of the
Oh, okay.
enforcement, except that what I would understand is that it would be self-policing in terms of citizen to citizen or the
Which could
lifeguard.
get nasty. That's even worse in some instances. And I do want to back up Trustee McKay's statement that I have heard personally from the chief that, African-American children that are playing on basketball on school yards on the right time have multiple calls saying, who are these people and why are they on our playground? So it's an open playground for certain hours. So I do hear that. I understand that I'm worried that we're setting ourselves up to look more segregated and to cause a little more self-policing in a time when it's going to be a difficult time to self-police. Who was there? But let me ask the attorney though. So for Attorney Bear, for a rule, who enforces that?
Well, we actually have an existing written agreement with the
entity that
Like
supplies the guards, lifeguards,
Right.
and it's laid out in there, would be something we would just work with them on and lay that out. Have with them.
But last time they came before us, trustee Menta wanted the rules in the packet, and they didn't provide them, and we said, well, how do you know you're comfortable with the rules that we're providing, that you're enforcing? They said they weren't gonna do that. From my recollection, they were not interested in enforcing those types of rules.
Well, we could ask them to.
They're their only
we have to ask
provider,
them to do it when
and
it comes up for renewal.
I understand that, but they're the only ones that bid, because they're the only provider. And so that's what happened this time. We did ask, and they said no, from my recollection. I specifically asked them, the trustee Menta did too. So in that instance, it's self-policing?
Well, I would,
Sure.
so in those, and if I recall the conversation correctly, you know, our vendor for lifeguard services, their primary duty is on enforcement of different
That's
ordinances.
what they told us.
However, when provided an opportunity to educate and provide direction, they do. So it has happened in different instances when the availability is there for them to do that. While it's not the primary role that they're trying to fulfill there, they have been very helpful, I think, in terms of advising people of what appropriate and inappropriate activities are at the beach. And that they would also have, I have heard from them a willingness to be able to collaborate with us on sharing that level of advisement within around that they are able to do, because their primary function is to provide lifeguarding services.
And thank you, and if I remember correctly, they said, and if it gets to the level of enforcement, like they're not complying, we'll call the police,
Correct.
which is the same. Trustee Moore.
Well, I just have one quick thing to add. You know, at the end of the day, I think that, you know, there have been a lot of good points made by everyone around the table here. But I think part of the reason that we wanted to go with an incremental solution first is that I don't feel like we know the impact. I mean, it could go in a lot of different ways. I think that we're at a little bit of an impasse, and, you know, I would really like to go with an incremental solution, but I certainly would support something where we got through a season, we saw what the impacts were, and then maybe we put it on the docket to be re-examined before next season, maybe at this time. I'm just trying to get us to a situation where we can all feel comfortable, but I just, you know, part of the discussion with the board at the lower level was that we don't necessarily know what the impact will be. We're the first community to try to
Trustee
do this.
Carpenter, you're next. Do you want to make a motion?
Well, I just had one kind of other thought as Trustee McCabe was speaking. You know, I definitely can hear that sentiment and feel that that is definitely a real issue in our community and in our city in general. I do have some concerns about a smoking area, almost increasing those issues in a you are smoking but not in the right area, and that becoming a real issue. And I just have a lot of concerns about the smoking area in general. So, you know, I would like for us to move forward with a non-smoking beach, and, you know, and sort of put the pressure on Milwaukee County and the rest of the beaches and, you know, in our city and county. So.
Do you want to make a motion?
There's a few other justices that want to talk, so
Okay.
go ahead.
Wait, Trustee Bachos.
Thank you. So I appreciate a lot of the comments tonight, and a lot of these things, we've had many discussions on this. This has been in committee several times, and I thank you for all the time that you've spent with us, educating us. So the overwhelming sentiment, if I may, and please correct me if I'm wrong, was that we all agree it would be great to have a smoke-free beach. For public health reasons, for aesthetics, for a variety of things. But we also have, you know, realities that people do have individual freedoms, and this is the first, and it does have policing and all these other things. Doesn't mean you still shouldn't change it, because there will be growing pains as a result of a decision like this. But again, we, as we talked about this more and more, a lot of these other issues came up. A lot of things like the police being called on, you know, residents and other people of color and whatnot in our village, and a lot of the, I mean, and we've all seen it, we've all heard these discussions, equity, everything. These are hot topics in Shorewood right now, at the school district, in the community, and they're not going away. So I'm not saying that this isn't a solution, but for the interim, like, let's do the best we can at Shorewood to continue to make sure that we are improving our relations and our perception, because we've got some pretty hot news in the last couple of years around race specifically in Shorewood that really hasn't put us in a good light. But again, that aside, Trustee McKay brought up a great point that we also discussed during committee, which I really appreciate, is that we're all adults here. We can talk to people. You know, if we have a problem with something, going online, going on social media, calling the cops, looking for some authority to come and talk, if we could get back to more community conversations and discussions with each other and treat each other with respect and dignity and all the other things that we tout, these are all on our Vision 2025. These are all part of our justice and dignity. You know, all the things a lot of the things that we've really been working hard on ardently at this board. So to get away again from the whole, I'm sorry to say this, tattletale mentality to the let's be respectful as adults, and then if we need to, if things escalate, we can deal with it then, because really we're not all that scary. And most people, you know, if you have a problem with them smoking or doing other things, yeah, you prefer them not to do it, but we also can't control that.
Right, and I think we all. kind of
And
want the
so
same
I
thing.
would say that I'm comfortable with the motion as stated in the packet, and I like the evaluatory aspects that Trustee Warren said, let's give it a season. Also with the fees and everything else, you know, we're gonna, this is impactful, it is a big decision, and I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Would you like to make a motion?
And I'll let her make it, she's the chair.
Okay, hi, I'm just checking as we move along this conversation. Trustee McKay, I think we've all expressed what we think.
I think, you know, given the variety of concerns that are raised here, I mean, an option that we have is to not make a rule and keep it status quo and just add a receptacle for, you know, cigarette butts, which is originally how this started because that's what the Surfrider group asked for, to, you know, mitigate the environmental impact since it is legal
And-
to smoke in public. So, I mean, that we, you know, I can ask the board to consider that if we're not comfortable moving ahead with a rule for the various issues.
Yeah,
And I will just say, actually, I won't just say, that's all.
I wanted to make a comment about the receptacles. I'm very thankful for the Surfriders making that donation, not promise, but like offer. And if for any reason we do outlaw cigarette butts, I will be asking if they could consider additional trash receptacles in its place. I just wanted to make that clear. Trustee Warren and then Trustee Menta would eventually like a motion.
And I was gonna make a motion.
I know, but they're, go ahead.
I move to approve implementation of an Atwater Beach rule prohibiting smoking and e-cigarettes on the beach except designated locations, and for the North Shore Health Department implementation of communication plan with a re-examination of such rule prior to summer of 2021.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Further discussion? I want to say a 3-3 vote would fail. Is that correct?
Mhm. That's right.
So, and then could another motion be made? That is, okay. So, all right, anybody have any further discussion?
I just have a question.
Yes?
What does that mean, the reevaluation before 2021?
My thinking was we bring basically the same questions to
I think with the question, are you asking me how, would you provide us any differently? At that point?
What would happen before summer of 2021?
Yes.
Two suggestions, maybe that annually after we close the season for Lake we actually sit down with coastline and we have a debrief about how they did, what went well, what do we want to improve on, what are some things we should consider just in terms of operations for the following year. That would be one, and a second could also be potentially inquiring with the police department whether they were ever needed to come over to address any impacts that were over at the beach. While it wouldn't be an ordinance, they would be called in such case that there was a sort of like conduct or not, you know, having the ability to move forward with the rule.
Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak on this?
Thank you for reminding me that. Is there anyone in the public that wants to speak to that? Okay, if not,
Do you mind if I just?
go right ahead.
Communication plan.
Yes, so we created, the health department created a communication plan after some of these concerns came up, and I met with the African American Tobacco Network, the network, the poverty network. So there's been parts of this education and communication plan that do work to address some of the strategies around equity. So that's embedded in here. Another thing that came up in my discussions, which is not in here, but certainly could be, is the City of Milwaukee Health Department has a portal on their website for concerns with regard to vaping ordinance, their vaping ordinance with regard to policing and discriminatory practices. So we've offered to also create that on our website. That could be another evaluation we can brought back after a year to see if there have been any responses on a non-law enforcement side of things.
So I would like to, my final comment in closing remarks is that before we vote, I understand that we can evaluate, but a rule, an ordinance, you're gonna have some disturbances. You have to look at the merits of the rule or the ordinance, and I fully wholeheartedly believe in the merits of banning smoking in a small beach, and so I will be voting no. Because regardless of now or in a year, you're gonna have enforcement, either by a lifeguard calling the police, or, the same situation is gonna happen whether it's a rule or police off, or an ordinance, but, I support the cause. I support, just like I would about smoking around the high school. We banned e-cigarettes, so that's my last remark. I will be voting no. Anybody else? Yes, Trustee.
I forgot to say, I just wanted to say publicly how much I appreciated working with you on this and how you went above and beyond. So thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any questions or comments? Trustee Boppers?
So it sounds to me like this might fail on a 3-3 vote, and then there could be a new, what's it called, motion, which could also fail. So potentially, just to lay it out, we might have a partial smoking ban on the beach, we might have a full smoking ban, or we might have whatever we currently have, because if both of those fail, we just go with the status quo. So just reminding the council that.
Attorney Baird?
Yeah.
So just point of clarification, if both fail.
Well, let's just be clear about what additional motions should be brought based upon what is agendized. Is consideration of a rule for smoking in designated areas on Atwater Beach. So if the motion is, well, I designate the area up on top of the bluff, and that fails, another motion could be made, I put it down on the bluff. You could go all over the place as long as it relates to a rule for smoking in designated areas. If it's a totally different motion.
You can't, what about no designated area?
That's the status quo.
No, I mean, a ban on smoke, I thought you can't make a motion for that today? That's what
Well,
we
that would
had
be,
committee.
well, I guess the designated area would be nowhere on the beach, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Oh, I
yeah.
see, okay.
That's certainly an area.
Wait, wait a minute.
It would be my house.
Yeah. Okay, so when someone makes a motion, they should say, okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. And the motion is for a smaller designated area, and we didn't designate that area, correct, in the motion?
They did not designate a motion.
Do we need to?
One of the suggestions that's outlined in sort of the memo as the next steps, if there is a chosen designated area, we'd like an opportunity to talk to Coastline and evaluate that with Public Works prior to that designation. I see that as administrative in nature versus a policy decision from the board.
I agree. I'm assuming it wouldn't be like by the playground or anything.
I just, your pay grade would not
It
be
doesn't matter
there.
if you're talking about a 10 by 10 foot area, or if you're talking half the beach is smoking and half the beach is non-smoking. Those are substantially different.
We can always do it again, guys, we can change it.
Well,
Just
we open an
unclear
ordinance,
motion
yeah, no.
to do designated area, that's unclear. I don't know what that means. Could be half the beach, what are you talking about?
Could be the whole beach.
That wasn't mine.
And that would bring.
Right, I just am saying that because of what Attorney Barrett
What,
said.
can you clarify your motion as to what, like how, approximately how large? I mean, I'm gonna vote no either way, but, so it might matter to someone else if it's a small area or half the beach.
Yeah, Rebecca, I think our intent down at the committee level was something like a 10 by 10 area. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
On
Maybe a little
the
larger.
beach or on this bluff?
I think it was on the bluff, but.
You're trusting me.
I apologize, I might be unprepared in this respect, because my understanding and intent was that it would be around the receptacle.
Right.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. that's
Very,
right.
it's a
Sorry.
very limited area.
Very
Yeah.
limited.
unless it's near the tiki bar, the margaritas.
Well, we haven't gotten to that yet. We
Oh,
haven't gotten to
right,
on the agenda
right.
yet. We haven't our vendor permits yet.
So if that needs to be clearly stated, then what I would, I'm not gonna make an amendment at this.
No.
I might just ask to withdraw the motion if, we don't even have a motion. on the floor.
We do, and that's
We do.
fine. I mean, if the motion maker doesn't want to designate, he doesn't have to. Someone else can make a motion if it fails. And so anyways, as Attorney Bear has advice.
Just, I think we have an understanding,
Okay.
and it can be in the minutes as to what the understanding is, so that you're what we're talking about, okay?
Okay.
I'll call the question.
Okay, so the question has been called. All those in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll go right to a vote on the motion. Read the motion and we will vote.
To approve implementation of an Atwater Beach rule prohibiting smoking and e-cigarettes on the beach, except in designated locations, and for the North Shore Health Department implementation of communication plans with re-examination of such rule prior to summer 2021.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Motion fails 3-3. Do we want to bring another motion?
I suggest we just move on.
Okay.
Unless one of you guys wants to bring them.
Well, this status quo, it doesn't preclude DPW from installing that.
Yeah.
All right, just says, but Attorney Bear, I would ask for direction here. I'm not clear. Obviously, no one wants to make a motion because that motion will fail. And so they're reserving the right to wait until there's a full board here is my guess.
It's your beach, you can always read, you can.
I'm not,
always
I'm
make another motion
not
on
saying
another
everyone, I'm
topic.
saying that it's my assumption that there's maybe.
Why don't you make the motion then?
I just told you one. So my question is, can you bring this issue back to the board not to reconsider, but to make a different motion?
Oh, sure, absolutely, because it's
Okay.
not a motion to reconsider, it's a totally different
Okay.
policy, which would be no smoking.
So we would put it on future agenda items and then it would be
Absolutely.
agendized. Okay. All right, then I would suggest if there's no motion, we move on to the next agenda item. And that agenda item is consent agenda. Oh, wait. Damn, you know it's in the car. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Bachor, seconded by trustee Carpenter. Any items to be removed? And let me just see these. I don't have my notes in. I usually never forget them. I'd like to pull the minutes. And there's one more. I can't remember now, that's all I got for now. Oh, no, it was presentation of council votes. Okay, let's do the minutes. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the consent agenda with 5B removed. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And I'm gonna go by, try to remember, I just wrote the notes in my car. Two suggestions. One was, I think it was Tyler that took the notes this last time, and I just spoke with him briefly on the phone, but there were, now I don't have the exact sections, but there are sections that say, so-and-so clarified, it doesn't say so-and-so, it says like, it was clarified that this, and I asked, I don't want names, we don't go back to that, but could we say like a board member or staff, or, I was getting confused on, because the residents participate as well.
Can I suggest you suggest you change and bring it to the next meeting, because you don't have it in front of you, and we don't know what you're talking about. So
Sure.
why don't you just bring the minutes back next meeting?
I can do that. Okay,
I'll
so,
move approval of the minutes for whatever date this is,
Second.
wait,
February 17th. Oh, we'll start now.
Defer.
I'm
you're
sorry.
gonna defer, okay, all right, yes, so we
Move
have,
to defer discussion of the minutes of February 17th, 2020 to our next meeting.
I'll second that.
Well, I already seconded the first motion.
oh,
Well, I think.
but it wasn't on the floor yet, because
It
Mary
was
repeated it.
inadvertent.
Okay, fine.
Isn't it true that until the chair states the motion that it
Well, I mean, I think it was
second,
an
that it's not.
inadvertent
I understand.
misspoke, so clearly that was not the intent of your motion.
Right, my motion is to defer to the next meeting and trustee.
I would still second that.
Okay, so a motion from trustee Menta and a second by trustee Bachhorst to defer the minutes to the following meeting. And, anybody would have further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So we'll now move on to public hearings. There are none. And move on to agenda item number 8, which is citizens to be heard. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak to a non-agenda item or agenda item at this time, please step forward to the mic, state your name and address.
So, I wanted to speak to the issue about the lobby use next to the library. Would now be the appropriate time?
It's up to you. So if you want to state your comments now, you can wait, and I'll call upon you during that discussion.
I'll wait.
Okay, and just a reminder to the audience, we usually let the board discuss the issue, deliberate first, and then once the questions are all completed, then I'll call on the residents. Okay, all right, so seeing no other citizens to be heard at this time, we'll move on to new business. 9A, consider communication plan policies, chapter 4 and 5 on social media and communications in public buildings. Tyler.
Hello. Welcome to March. So for new business here, we have the communication. I would just recommend we do them separately. So chapter 4 on social media first.
And are we adopting? I thought we were adopting all as one.
You can, or you can adopt them separately if you want to split, do two
just
different votes.
when we talked last time, the reason, this is coming back before us.
This was on your consent agenda last time, and it was pulled. Originally, trustee Amenta wanted, she missed the previous meeting, so trustee Amenta wanted some time to go through the policies with me before I brought them
I
back.
misunderstood. I thought we were going to wait until we adopted the whole. We went through all of them. We're doing them chapter by chapter.
That's what I'm recommending.
Okay.
But if you want to do them together,
It's
yeah.
just something
Okay.
different.
So chapter 4, social media, I just had some track line changes from the last time you saw, based on some of the discussions with trustee Amenta, so you could see what the recommended changes were. And then also talking with trustee Amenta, I think she had one general question to inquire with the board. If you don't, then I can just answer any questions. But, nothing, just a lot of clarification items, so. Any questions?
I have one. So it was the first time that I read, sorry, trustee Warren.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You sure? Okay. It was the first time that I read, and I think it was this chapter, that the village president, if there was a complaint about a board member, is this the part? Is this the chapter? It says the village president, it's reported to the village president, and then if it's a complaint about the village president, it's reported to.
That would be section I, correct.
Right, in this chapter, right? Okay, thank you, I forgot my notes, as you know. Okay, so, and then it says, and I would be, or whoever's in this position would then refer to the human resource manual or our ordinance, which neither of them really address. So I wanted to know if we should add and the Wisconsin State Ethics.
The last sentence says specific violations may need consultation with the village attorney through the village manager, the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, or the Wisconsin Ethics Commission.
That, I thought that applied to something different. It wasn't.
It's in that section, so that's what, it is implying that we would be able to utilize that as a resource if needed.
I'm
The
just
village.
Okay, but I assume that's new, that it's the village president, so that line there. And I assume it's because staff wants to stay, it's an elected official. Instead of going to the village manager, it is designating in our policy that those complaints go to the village president on another board member. And I'm not comfortable yet not knowing, and maybe my predecessor will be, or someone that comes after me, I can't remember. But it really is concerning to me that I want to know what the role would be and how I would enforce something. And I think, President Shaw had mentioned that in our committee of the whole, and we don't have the answer yet. So our human resource manual doesn't say anything. And in respect to elected officials, from my knowledge, it just talks in general about a procedure, we don't have a committee set up or anything like that, an ethics committee. So what would I do tomorrow, once this is adopted, and someone complains? Staff gets involved? No?
No, I mean, when it comes to a complaint, right now, how it's written, it would go to the president. If the complaint would be about you, you would go to the public safety chair.
Yep, I saw that.
And then those violations would be in consultation with the references I mentioned. Now typically, you know, an additional document that would provide more guidance would be a code of conduct, which we're in the process on working on. I think that might be a future agenda item
Sure,
tonight.
but
I don't
for
have that, I
ethics,
don't
like,
have that for
okay,
tonight.
someone's stealing, okay, so someone comes up and says, I mean, ethics committee for Wisconsin, the state covers it, we're never gonna cover, I mean, the state already covers that, for theft, for malfeasance in office, things like that. So wouldn't that be the proper place to turn those
Correct.
things? Okay.
And we do refer to that.
And then the code of conduct, once we have one, would be more, I would turn to that more for generalized behavior in office, if that's what it addresses, okay.
And once that's done, you know, if you end up getting a code of conduct that you adopt as a board, that would be something that we would recommend probably referring to as well in these policies.
And I just want to be clear, when I use the word code of conduct, according to the league of Wisconsin, I'm sure Trustee Buckford uses this too, but it's, most of the code of conducts, the sessions that they hold, and we'll have one, are about how we expect to act during a board meeting, how we want the residents to react to us. I don't know if it's going to address, I just want to be clear that I don't know if that's going to address and give me enough guidance to handle some of the things the residents want us to handle. Okay, but just, Rebecca. Okay, Trustee Moore.
I just had three, in the interest of time, I had three very small questions, I'll just ask them right in a row. Just G, bullet point 1, the disclaimer language you provide, I don't know if we want people to directly quote it. If we don't, I would suggest just adding more substantially similar. If we do, that's fine too. For the bullet point 3, we say do not reference or cite non-village management. I think we mean village non-management. And finally, for the open meetings language that we replaced, I'm assuming that Attorney Bear is okay with that kind of softening of that language.
Did you say that non-limited?
There's a bullet point 3.
Trustee Mottmer made actually the same comment to me earlier today on the phone. So for bullet point 3 under section G, we just need to switch non instead of in front of village under
It
management.
says non-village management.
It should say village non-management, so that can be a correction that I can make.
I mean, can I just say one thing on that, because
Trustee Menton.
we were talking about two different, we were differentiating between village non-management employees, basically, either village staff or elected officials should not be calling out, line staff, unless it's something on the website. But that should be distinguished from village management employees, and this sentence doesn't really do that, because the subject of the sentence is village non-management employees. We really need a second sentence saying, a department head or management employee, because my issue was, I feel like if someone's a department head or the village manager and I want to report on something, even an opinion about their performance or some aspect of it, that's different than a line employee. But that comment should relate to their position and official responsibilities, so.
Can I make a point clear?
And that's not clear because they're both lumped together in the same sentence, and they really should be. We should have one sentence dealing with village non-management employees, and then a second with management employees.
So, and I want to state my view on that. The village board really has only purview over 2 employees in this village, and that is our village manager, who we hire as a whole, and as well as our village attorney, who right now the language will address that in our next item on the agenda, or one of the items. But again, every other department head reports directly to Rebecca, and so maybe you just distinguish it that way. I mean, that you don't call out anyone except people who are responsible. Like we could, what's the difference between Tyler or someone that you manage and a line staff? Not that, obviously there's different, authority.
Well, can I just say, these are guidelines, okay?
Yeah.
Because we all have the right to say whatever we want about anybody at any time. So, but I mean, we're trying to adopt voluntary guidelines here of saying what we feel as a group is appropriate. So, and my issue was, yeah, I mean, it's not appropriate for me to comment on Facebook about Tony and, you know, something Tony's doing, or Anna Terry down at the customer service desk. But if Sarah did a great job running the election, I think there's a little more leeway to say, wow, good job, Sarah, our clerk, for how well you've run the election. Positive or negative. So I feel that our guideline that we're adopting, that when someone has a management role or is a department head, they're responsible for the operation of that department. And if we feel like it just as a voluntary guideline, that there should be a distinction between non-management and management employees.
Or is it department heads? I'm comfortable with the department heads.
What is, management is, I think encompasses department heads. I mean, Nathan is another department head.
Well, I mean, what is Diana? She manages customer service. It does, you can be a manager if you look.
We tend to have them in the same group.
You do, okay, so department heads.
Yeah.
Our manager is not.
If you want to use department heads instead of non-management, I think from our perspective, it would be, we're talking about the same group, so.
Okay. I don't care then either way, it's the
Okay.
same group.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any discussion?
Did you have other comments?
Oh, no, I'm good.
What I wanted to just throw out there is, I did watch the tape, I think it was the January meeting that I missed when this was discussed, because, we've actually been talking about this since 2018. It's been like 2 years, and I know some trustees on the board have had a lot of interest. And again, we're not, everybody can say or do whatever they want on Facebook, not on Facebook. But I think it's been pointed out repeatedly that, I think all of us would like to have a more civil environment between ourselves, both in our meetings, outside of our meetings, and online. So I thought this was an opportunity where we were really going to get to talk about that, and I don't feel we've had that discussion yet. So that's kind of, and I don't want to take a long time because I'd like to go to closed session at 9:30. But for example, I think the idea of not commenting on each other's posts is a good one. I think we're going to have to think about those of us who moderate Facebook pages, because under the case that Nathan sent to me when I had a open records request, under that particular case, and Nathan, you may remember the actual citation, the local official in that situation was the moderator of the page, and he, I don't know if it was the Attorney General or the court at that time, said, if you're moderating a page, anything on that page, somebody could FOIA under open records. I assume also private messages between you and other moderators on that page could also be construed as an open record. So for those of us or future trustees who are moderating Facebook, I don't personally, but if there are some people who may or may take that role on, they should understand that that's open record. I think when there's, for example, very pointed criticism of one of us on a page that another of us is moderating that page, I think that creates some opportunity for bad feeling, let's put it that way. And during elections, we all have our opinions on elections and who people should vote for. I think there's a way to state, your reasons without, making personal attacks and dragging other people down. So I just wanted to, we have not had that conversation. We've talked about having that conversation, and it doesn't seem we've had it, so I just wanted to bring that up.
I appreciate that. I agree with you, Trustee Bachhorst.
So 2 things. One is during our discussions regarding the management, other employees, I thought that, at least where I was going from, is that I don't think that we have an understanding here as a group collectively what is appropriate online behavior and what is not.